The board has been nothing but open and has never turned down a teacher who wanted to talk to us or anything like that. So, and in fact, we held three open conferences last year during COVID, and I think that where we had parents and teachers talking to Seth and team. So I think some of that stuff I just wonder where it comes from. To be honest with you,
I think the real root is based on they talk about they have these forums that again, it says last year, these were in the end of 2019 and into 2020 before COVID, and did a strategic plan that they purport the results were decidedly positive across all constituencies. Well, no one's ever seen the strategic plan.
Right.
Long Trail School, an independent school based in Dorset, which offers education to students from grades 6 through 12, has been in the news a lot recently. A controversy has been swirling between a group of parents and faculty members on the one hand, and the school's board of trustees and head of school on the other, over issues of transparency, faculty turnover, and management style. Those issues came to a head on September 20th at a meeting held at the Wilburton Inn in Manchester Village, and called by a group of parents and faculty members concerned about the direction of the school's leadership. At the meeting, several teachers, along with Jim Johnston, a parent of 2 students currently at Long Trail, aired their concerns.
The faculty attendance, especially in middle school, is up, but the net teacher numbers are approximately even, and which results in larger class sizes and more work for the teachers, is an issue that we would like to discuss with the board.
I came here tonight not knowing what the future looks like at LTS, but I do know what the past 3 years have looked like from the trenches of a job I love. Far too often, the head of school as well as the board chair have operated in a cavalier and reckless manner when it comes to the concerns of the faculty, parents, alumni, and most importantly, the student body. As a community, we have been at best misled and at worst lied to our faces and by omission.
I have come to believe that school governance reform is the only way to move forward at this juncture. I don't think we can go backwards. We need a more inclusive and transparent governance model that allows the various constituencies to air their concerns at the board level without fear of recrimination. Specifically, we want teacher, family, and alumni representation at the board level.
They were supported by David Wilson, who co-founded the school in 1975 and served as its headmaster for 32 years.
We all need to work together for the sake of LTS kids now and into the future. So, let's get talking, let's get listening, let's get resolving. Thanks a lot.
Long Trail's Board of Trustees responded shortly afterwards, offering to hold a strategic planning mission with faculty, staff, and board members to be held in November. Before that, a strategic enrollment task force would be created to provide information and perspectives, and all interested faculty and staff were invited to join the task force. Then on Monday, September 27th, the parent and faculty group, which had publicly raised the issues around faculty turnover, management style, and transparency, released a statement of their own, listing several demands which included the resignation of the current chairman of the school's Board of Trustees, John Moser, and a review of the school's headmaster, Seth Linfield, by a mutually agreed-upon third party. There were several other demands, which included publishing the school's current bylaws on the school's website, removal of language in the parent-student handbook that allows for the disenrollment of students based on the behavior of their guardians, and for the duration of the head of school's contract to be made public, along with a few other points. If those demands were not met by October 14th, they planned to hold a gathering on the school's fields to advocate for reform and transparency. If the demands were not met by the end of October 18th, the walkout would continue, the statement said. To try and dig into what was dividing the Board of Trustees and the parent-faculty group, GNAT held Zoom calls with both sides recently. These discussions have been edited for length and clarity, but are presented here in a longer than usual length, to give viewers as complete a view as possible of the perspectives of both sides. We began with a conversation with Jim Johnston and Dana McCloskey, and who were joined later by Brooks Addington, another Long Trail parent.
Just to get us started here, is my understanding correct that basically the main issues are the amount of faculty turnover you've seen over the past couple of years, and in general, the quality and level of communication with parents and faculty that's coming from the administration at Long Trail? You feel it's just not as good as it should be? Is that kind of basically what's driving your concerns?
I think I'll start. I think that's the gist of it. I mean, it's definitely, the letter that was sent to the board, from the board to the paper in response to the meeting said, that they cherish and encourage open expression, communication, and feedback. And all we're asking for is open communication around where, basic things like, if you're asking to donate to the school, where's the money going? I think the real root is based on, they talk about, they have these forums that again, it says last year, these were in the end of 2019 and into 2020 before COVID, and did a strategic plan that they purport the results were decidedly positive across all constituencies. Well, no one's ever seen the strategic plan.
Right.
So how are we to know what's actually in the plan? That's something that I believe is a very reasonable request. And if all these people in the community participated, why are they not sharing the plan? I mean, that's one example, right? And so I think it's been, purported that this is a group of disgruntled parents or teachers, but the root of it is way deeper than that. This is many, many parents, many, many teachers who are frustrated with their lack of open communication and are bringing out legitimate questions to the board. Despite anything that they've put out, the board has never met individually with the teachers to express any of the concerns that we're raising, or with the parents. And in fact, the statement that they gave to the Manchester Journal suggests that they're going to have a now, in response to the meeting and the letter, a strategic plan to discuss with the teachers and the faculty, and enroll a strategic enrollment task force. And yet nowhere does it say anything about addressing any of the concerns, the many, many questions and concerns that we raised in that meeting. And that's very frustrating. We're asking for open communication, and they're responding with personal attacks and things like, well, if you don't like it, you can leave the school. Well, if all the teachers keep leaving and all the students start leaving, then there's not going to be a school. So we want the school to thrive, and we love the school. We love the teachers, but we're very frustrated with both the leadership and, frankly, the governance, which, again, they purport that they're following. The board is following the guidelines in the New England Association of Schools and the NAIS guidelines, which they cite in the post on the Parent and Student Handbook, where they essentially are telling people, if you raise your voice, well, we can kick your kids out of school. And yet, if you look at the NAIS guidelines, which dictate independent school board of trustee responsibilities, it very clearly states that the board should be made up of past, present, and future constituents of the community. And present members of the community certainly mean parents. And in all of our research that we've done in many, many private schools, I'm sure there's examples of private schools that don't have parents on the board, but certainly our vast research would suggest that's the exception versus the rule. And the fact that they continue to suggest that there's no parents on the board. In fact, last year, there was a parent who raised the question of coming on the board, and they were told parents aren't, quote unquote, allowed on the board. And yet at the time, the Long Trail website stated that their board was comprised of current parents. What do you believe? And they don't back up anything with actual evidence or conversations. They just say, well, we're right and you don't know, so if you don't like it, you can leave. And that's very frustrating.
I also got a copy of the statement from the board, and talking about that meeting they're proposing to have, and a task force set up prior to a meeting in November, strategic planning meeting, as it's described. I guess you're feeling that is my understanding correct, that you're feeling that that's kind of not an adequate enough response to what you'd like to see?
I'll take this one. So, I've been at this with Seth and the board for over a year. So I started in this conversation of things, people being unhappy last August as a member of the Long Trail Parent Association. And we had several conversations with leadership, Seth. The problem is they compartmentalize all of the individuals, whether it's the students or the teachers or the parents. They don't allow for everyone to come together to have a conversation, and so they can say whatever they want to the different constituents. So I think that's a way that they sort of, in my opinion, they manipulate the system, that they don't have to address all of the issues, or they say, oh, it's just this, or it's just this. And Seth participated in several meetings. The problem was he would listen to you and no action would ever occur. So, in regard to the students, we said, okay, the students wrote you a letter. The students want this to happen. The students are angry. If we deal with nothing else before the school starts, let's get a mediator. This is what the LTPA proposed. Let's get a mediator. Let's have you and the senior class come together. It'll be a learning opportunity for everyone to deal with this difficult situation. The LTPA has the funds to pay for that. We're willing to do it. We've discussed it with a local mediator. No, we don't want to do that. So, for us, from my perspective, just having meetings is not going to change anything because it is the leadership style of the people in charge. And there's nothing to challenge their charge. We can be down here screaming from the rooftops, whether it's students, parents, teachers, whoever, and we have no voice to make change. And so, I read their responses to things and I almost can't even read them because to me, it's just more of the same. Never have they just said, yes, there's a problem. If they would just say that, they make it seem like we're crazy. And we're not. I mean, there's a problem and we need to fix it. So,
but I guess what is the main ask that you're seeking here? Is it to have just a stronger dialogue with the administration that includes you and or parents, and in addition to board members and faculty members, to really kind of get everyone on the same page, or is it something else?
Well, I think the start of it is a recognition that there are issues at the school that transcend what has been purported by the board and this continued public release of everything's fine and we 1,000% support Seth. I go back to the question I asked at the very end of our list of questions. The board suggested, Mr. Moser suggested in the article last week that the board 1,000% supported Mr. Linfield. Why? We pointed out that a number of the accomplishments at the school are based on the faculty and the staff pulling together as a group. And so a conversation and an admission that there's an issue, and frankly, an addressing of these very real governance concerns. We were sort of joking a minute ago, but there's a number of members of the board that are over 7 years. And the last bylaws we saw suggested a 7-year term limit. So again, if that's true, they're either over their term limit or they've changed the bylaws to allow them to continue to be on the board. Why are there no parents on the board? The parents don't have a voice. Until there's an actual admission and an ability to work to resolve some of these things, that's at least from the parents. And this is not, again, the three of us. We're not vying for a board spot here. There's many, many parents in the community willing and ready to step up to provide vast resources to the school to help the school be better and better and better school, and have volunteered to be on the board and volunteered to work on this. Well, take us up on that. Why won't you take us up on that, right? The community to do that. And I think that's a good first step. But then I think there's some root causes here where, again, you have to address the real people. The people who count in this are the students and the teachers. And the teachers expressed on Monday very real concerns that are not being addressed.
and it was pointed out at the meeting on Monday, that the vote of no confidence letter that was signed a year ago and rebuffed by the board, that the vast majority of the teachers had signed that letter. Now here we are 1 year later. I highly doubt that number has improved, or has not improved in terms of less people. I think it's only gone in one direction. And the fact that the board said in the letter, as you saw, the chairman of the board said that he had addressed those issues, and the teachers had, of course, said that wasn't the case at all, and he had actually rebuffed them, and I think said, shaken that letter in their face. I think that pretty much sums up where the board's attitude is in terms of how they feel about the teachers, how they feel about the parents' concerns, that they've made their decisions. They feel they know what's right and only right, and they've not been willing or able or open to have a discussion with anyone on these issues. There's a real challenge of admitting that there are issues at the leadership level of the school, both at the board level and certainly at the head of the school level. And without having any representation from people in the community, there were two people in the community who both resigned this year. I think there's only one left who's actually relatively attached to the community, and I mean the local community as opposed to actually having any children there. So it almost seems like this is by design to remove anyone who knows what's going on at the school. And so you have an effective power vacuum, information vacuum between the head of the school and the chair of the board. And it's just not acceptable. And it's not good for the community, not good for the LTS community, and certainly not good for our greater community, because I think we all know we in the North Shire need Long Trail.
Yeah.
Then we had a chance to talk with John Moser, the chairman of Long Trail's Board of Trustees.
I guess I just wondered, what were your general reactions to the comments that were stated there at that meeting at the Wilburton on, I guess it was September 20th? Do you think there are concerns about, as I understood it, faculty turnover, kind of a top-down management style, and sort of a general lack of transparency coming from the board? Were those fair?
You know what? I'm not going to address any exact comments, but I can tell you this. The board has been nothing but open and has never turned down a teacher who wanted to talk to us or anything like that. So, and in fact, we held 3 open conferences last year during COVID. And I think that, where we had parents and teachers talking to Seth and team. So I think, some of that stuff, I just wonder where it comes from, to be honest with you, as this board, who's made up of 7 volunteers who have really no children in the school. They're former teachers, lawyers, people like that who just want to help. And that's always been, the reason that we joined the board in the first place, is to try to listen and help and coordinate. And that's been, clearly COVID made things extremely difficult in the last year, right? I am a teacher myself. I teach at NYU, so I know what that's like to have to teach both online and in person, and have some students who are online. In fact, as I had a class last year that had students in 3 different time zones teaching classes. So some were having breakfast, some were having dinner, and some was in the middle of the night. And it's not so easy to do. It's a lot of stress on a teacher to have to pull that off. So I understand how that can actually cause some issues and cause some questions. But the board, unfortunately, wasn't allowed on campus for the last year and a half, due to COVID. And although we'd like to be there, we couldn't be there. However, we did do, as I said before, 3 Zoom type meetings for people to communicate that way. So I wonder where that comes from, to be honest with you. And I think, quite honestly, between you, me, and a fence post, and maybe your show, so maybe not between you, me, and a fence post, we'll be the strongest and the students will be the best served when the entire community works together. That's really what we're trying to achieve. We've always been trying to achieve that. And it's best achieved through in-person communication. There's no doubt. As a teacher, I know that for sure. And I think LTS has always believed in and pushed and been, for our students, our teachers, for everyone, open expression and communication. So I'm actually proud of them that they actually did this. I wouldn't have chosen the way they did it, but I think the fact that they're standing up and asking for some things, that's important. They're leading by example. I just wish we'd done it more in-house versus through the press.
Mm-hmm. Well, why were no board members present at that meeting? That seems like that might have been an opportunity to address directly some of those concerns in person, and kind of maybe make some headway towards resolving them.
I think so, except for that we were told before that meeting started that there would be no ad hoc questions coming from people or no comments from people who might have supported. And we knew that there was going to be a lot of people saying, prepped up to give their negative speeches. So it wasn't really a fair contest. And we didn't think that was really the best way for this school to come together. We think the best way for the school to come together is for teachers and board members and administrators to get in a room together, which we've scheduled for this Friday, to come together and talk about the issues and work through the issues together, not stand on a bandwagon and preach about things.
So what in your opinion, or from the board's point of view, are the key objectives and key points that you want to resolve with them? Is it a communications question in your opinion, or more to it than that?
I think honestly, open communication, and transparency is the best thing we can create at any school or any business, right? I mean, quite honestly, I think that's really important. And I hate to say it, but board members, and it's funny, Andrew, as soon as you join a board, the perception is you're sitting up in a closet somewhere, counting money in the dark or something. And that's totally not what board members are. Board members are you and I standing in a room trying to say, what can we do better? And I think the more we learn about each other and talk to each other, the more we'll see that those misconceptions will float away, and people will see that we're all trying to do this together. We're all trying to create this great school together. And I just have to mention, one of the things that I'm so proud of this school, and this is not from any one person, is that, Long Trail School last year throughout COVID stayed open 5 days a week. And we were one of the few schools in the country that did that. And last year, 90% of our seniors were admitted to first or second choice colleges and universities. Through all of this, I mean, the school is thriving and doing very well. And it doesn't happen because of one faction or another. It happens from a lot of people working together. And I think we're missing that point. And but I will also tell you, COVID created a lot of issues. It's brought in more students. It's made our classrooms a little bit larger, which we have to address and figure out how to handle that. And all those things, every day we're talking about this on the phone or via Zoom right now, but this is something teachers face every day. They walk into a classroom with a bunch of students in a small room, and that's kind of scary when there's a pandemic going on out there. So to think that wouldn't eventually wear on you to a point where you might be at a razor's edge, I don't think anybody could go through that. And as a teacher, I've seen it firsthand.
Will parents be part of this task force that you're forming prior to
Yes, yeah, absolutely. We've already had board members reaching out to parents who've sent us notes about their concern, and they've already started reaching out to parents to set up meetings with them as well.
So it'll be board members, faculty members, parents.
Yep.
All interested parties will be members of the task force.
Yeah, that's the only way you build the community. I should let you know, I mean, you probably saw this somewhere, I'm not sure, but a year and a half ago, before COVID happened, we had a strategic planning meeting that included teachers, students, board members, community members, and administrators. So we believe that everyone's got to be part of what the new vision of Long Trail can be and what it should be. And it's got so many great things that the potential is tremendous and awesome, and really something, I think, the size school we are, it has potential that bigger schools don't have to really do something special. And so that's why we want to get everybody buying in and getting there. And unfortunately, COVID happened, it slowed things down, but I do believe all those values and all the mission statement all still holds true as to where this place could be. Now we just have to kind of let's iron out some of the differences we have so that we can start focusing on stuff like that.
So were all these concerns and discussion points primarily just a function of COVID, do you feel? If COVID had never happened, would there never have been these concerns raised because they existed?
Honestly, I can't answer that question because I haven't spoken directly to the teachers about that in a year and a half. They haven't come to me with any of that in the last year and a half, so this is all new to us. But I have to think in my head that this has certainly added some stress. I wonder if COVID hadn't happened and there was more face-to-face conversations, maybe this stuff would have been eradicated before we got to this stage.
So what about this point about the faculty turnover? That seemed to be a very big deal there at that meeting Monday night last week I attended. Do you feel that that's a fair charge? I mean, basically, obviously your enrollment has gone up, and but one of the concerns was that the student-teacher ratio was now not quite as ideal as it could have been. Do you think have there been faculty that have left the school because of their concerns about top-down management?
You know what, I don't want to address individual comments, but I can tell you this: we are certainly well within the parameters of what's happening to schools around the country. I think the reality is, as I mentioned to you earlier, teachers reevaluated whether they want to be teachers anymore after the last year. It's been very difficult, a very hard job. And I do think, I'm hoping actually, because I do work with New York City public schools as well, I am hoping that that people now appreciate what teachers have to go through more than ever before, and kind of see how valuable they are. I think Long Trail has always valued its teachers, and I think teachers leave for many different reasons. Some of them because they choose to leave, some of them because they aren't performing as well as others. I can't comment on the individuals of who left and why, but I can certainly say that one thing that I know for sure is every teacher is treated with respect and throughout, and that we really do know. I mean, I spent a lot of time in the corporate world, and one thing I do know, and I was in the hospitality world, is that yes, your customers are your most important person, but your staff is the one who interfaces with your customer. So if you don't take care of them, they're not going to take care of your customer. So taking care of the teachers is extremely important.
So I guess then, last night I received this open letter to your board. Mm-hmm. And I guess I wanted to find out what your reaction to that was.
But I'm not going to address specific demands in that comment. We need to understand those concerns better. And the best way to do that is not, I hate to say it, not through the press, but through in-person communication, as I said earlier. I look forward to hearing what the specific concerns are and then figuring a way to solve them. I hate to say this, but I see this in our country right now. It's so easy for everyone to look for a win versus a compromised, collaborative effort to make things better. And I think for everyone, it'll be much better if we could get together, sort this out as a team, and come up with solutions that work for everyone, work for the teachers, work for the administrators, and most of all, work for the students of Long Trail School. Actually, we started setting up yesterday meetings with parents, and also, as you saw, a meeting with the faculty on Friday afternoon.
Do you think the board, one of their concerns was that there are no parents on the board? Do you feel like that would be a good idea to add a few current parents to the board of trustees?
Funny you mention that. I'm not going to say the name, but I met with a current parent this morning who would like to be on the board. We had a great 90-minute conversation, and not ratified yet, but I certainly will recommend this person to join the board. I think having a collaborative effort of people bringing all sorts of things to the table is really important, and bringing different perspectives is important. And so this person, I think, would be a great asset for the school.
This story isn't over yet, and we'll be following it as it goes along. For the GNAT-TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.